Namaste, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you, and welcome back again to Figure Outable. So, we have a very interesting topic in today's video, which is again on some very useful, effective techniques that I want to share here on how we can win on relationships. Now, the tips that I'm giving here again are not very specific only for relationships of a spouse or a husband and wife as such, or a partner in life. It can correlate to all forms of relationships that we have in our life, right? So we go through multiple levels of relationships with different people, with different, sort of associates that we engage with at different parts of our life. So these techniques are going to be very, very powerful, and I would recommend that you write them down and start using them, in general, and you will see how the transformation is happening around you and with the people that you're associating with you as well, and also with your very close relationships that you have. I am pretty certain that it is definitely going to, strengthen that bonding that you're going to have in multiple levels. So let's start off with some of these techniques that I have specifically taken note of to share with you all today. So the first one is to cover each one's weaknesses. Now, it's important for us to understand, where we or I as an individual I'm really good at, and I do awesome stuff in that space. At the same time, where I'm not so good at, and where I need, some sort of an external support, and so on and so forth. So it's important for us to understand those levels and not try to over exaggerate the areas where we are kind of relatively weaker, and we do not want to, kind of expose that with our spouses or partners to a large extent. Now, there's nothing that you're going to lose with this, right? It's only going to be a gain where we are able to cover each other's weaknesses in a way. So, the first fundamental thing is to understand what is it that we are talking about when it comes to weaknesses. Now, some people may be, not so great at kind of connecting every day with a deeper level of communication, or they may be, fearful. They may be like people who tend to overthink a lot on things. So these could be some, so-called weaknesses that we may want to monitor and help each other to, elevate ourselves and come out of that. So that's one thing that I would recommend, to cover each one's weaknesses. The second thing I would talk about is celebrate others' strengths. Recognize your partner's strengths and celebrate them. So acknowledge them. So the moment you start recognizing them and acknowledging them, one, you're trying to give a form of appreciation and acknowledgement to your partner. And the second thing is, you as an individual are also able to associate that strength, and you would always be inclined to reach out to, utilize that strength that your partner comes with. So this kind of goes hand in hand with weaknesses and strengths, right? So you're trying to collaborate with, acknowledging what sort of weaknesses that I as an individual have, what sort of strengths that I as an individual have, and the same thing with your partner. So when we know that, it's very, very easy to balance this out, and then you make the best of the both, right? Now, the next one that I'd like to talk about is try not to have any topics that you cannot talk about. In other words, not having judgment. So in many relationships we always hesitate because we start thinking, what if the person, tends to get this as an interpretation of something else that I did not really intend to communicate or did not really intend to share, but it came out that way, and what if they start thinking in those lines, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you would resonate to these kind of situations that happen quite often in families and in various relationships. So have that open conversation, have that habit of, I'm not going to be, blocking myself or reserving my intentions to be shared. I'm happy to share it, but bear in mind, let's be open to share and talk about these things, and relate in those terms without any judgment. So when you rule out the concept of having a judgment, I'm not being judged or I will not be judged, it really kind of relieves a lot of tension and stress in your heart. So try using that. The other one is, again, considering each other's opinions and contributions. So there always has to be a two-way sort of a conversation in any relationship whatsoever may be the scenario or the situation. Planning for something, executing some tasks together, or wanting to take decisions on certain things. Always have that feel of sharing, and have that combined contribution and decision taking and action taking and so on. This really helps to bond the relationship even more. You feel more connected, you feel more oneness within your relationship. The next thing is on, always seek for growth and not for perfection. We can't be perfect in everything, but we can always improvise, we can always strengthen ourselves, we can always transform and reconfigure our thought processes and re-trigger those intentions that we come with, and so on and so forth. So try to make that as an incremental progress. Do not think that I want to reach from 1 to 10 within the next day or so. So it has to be progressive. So that kind of gives you the mindset and the kind of thought process that I am progressing, I am improving, I'm a lot better in doing these things. For example, a task of doing your daily chores, or making sure that you remember things that you need to get done much ahead of time, and getting it done on time or even earlier than the actual due time or date that you would intend to do it usually. And these are improvements, right? So if you compare yourself to maybe a month ago to where you are today, that's what is the progression. So make sure that you have these conversations with your partners, and recognize those improvements as well on both sides, right? Oh, I noticed that these days you make sure that you always keep the water kettle with water, and I don't need to kind of by mistake turn it on and then get that burning stinky smell in the kitchen, for example. Right now, these are little things, but we tend to kind of overlook at these things, and it creates a degree of frustration and irritation and so on. So but when you change those things, and you recognize that yeah, my partner is doing this and that's amazing and awesome, speak it out, share it. That elevates again the connection between the two. The next one I would say is, it's very interesting when we start developing a culture within a relationship to review our relationships, where we are going okay, where we are doing awesomely well, and where we can potentially improve upon. I know these are terms that we use in business, or in a kind of a professional sort of a relationship with your colleagues, or with your peers, with your bosses, and so on. But how are we doing in a relationship? We seldom think about this, right? But this is also equally important, because any relationship, it's important to keep blooming it. So when you say keep blooming it, we need to take efforts consciously to see how we are taking actions and steps to make it bloom and make it evolve, make it strengthen even further and further. So this again is one technique which you can use to do a review, do a sense check, do a pulse check. Where are we going wrong, or what is it that we are not doing so right? Maybe Off late, for example, I haven't been spending enough time with my partner, for all valid reasons, but am I consciously aware of it, or has that just come in and gone? The important thing is to make sure that it's registering in your mind, and we are consciously sitting and talking about it and seeing what can be done better. Where can we kind of pull in some time from some activities or tasks that we do or we are more involved in, and invest that time in the relationship doing something more interesting or more exciting. Just that conversation itself brings back the magnet of attraction, and it makes both partners feel that I appreciate and I respect each other in a way that we want to make sure that we are there for each other at any cost. So that sort of a review always helps. So it's always good to do these kind of analysis and have those little conversations, and we don't need to kind of over engineer it, but just those simple talks, even a 5 minute conversation takes you 100 miles ahead. So remember that, always have this culture of reviewing your relationships as well. The next thing is acceptance. Accept corrections. Try to be humble. There's nothing wrong in accepting mistakes that we have done. In fact, the moment we set our mind and our thought process that I am okay to accept what I have done wrong, and there it is, that kind of opens the door to go and straight away see what you need to do to fix it. So, and this opens up a great extent of bonding in a relationship. So the moment we are in that mind frame of being open enough and humble enough to understand where your partner is coming from and what sort of intentions or what sort of messages they're trying to deliver to us, that really kind of gives them the strength and the belief that my partner is someone who will acknowledge and who's always willing to improvise and always willing to strengthen and move forward and keep this engagement even stronger and even stronger and even stronger. So have that attitude always, not just in a relationship but in general in life itself. Always it's important to accept the fact that we are not perfect, we are not intending to be perfect, but we are open to accept suggestions, feedbacks, criticisms in a productive way, in a constructive way. Do not put it in a state where you're trying to deteriorate yourself. Don't try to bring in those negative, thought forms inside, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not, fit for this. I told you I can't do this. Let's not get into that kind of a dialogue. Yeah, I understand this. I want to work on this. Let's see what we can do. Let's go read up something, or let's go talk to some people who are really doing awesomely well on this particular activity or particular task. Just realize how my tone and my voice just changed in a few seconds, right? That's the amount of positive vibration those thought forms bring inside us automatically, even without us realizing it. We are just elevating ourselves and saying, yes, go get it. So it's always important for us to have that open attitude of acceptance and being humble. Now the other thing is, you know also you can create joint goals. So it's always interesting to have these kind of, I want to do it, and then your partner says, I want to do it as well. So, or why don't we do this as well, in addition to what you're thinking about? Voila, you have a joint constructive goal, and it just works so seamlessly, and it just excites that energy level amongst the partnership that we have, and we will be even more inclined to get these goals implemented and run, and do those interim assessments, do those checkpoints, reviews together. It's just fun. It's absolute fun. So try it out with sharing goals, having joint goals, and helping each other. Like, okay, I see that you're almost 50% here with respect to your let's say your fitness program or your improvised diet plan. Let's now sit and see what else we can do on that to enhance it further, so interesting conversations again. The other one I would talk about is to keep priority, to make sure that you have enough and sufficient time given to your partnership and your relationship. I understand that we all have, a dozen things to do on a day-to-day level, and we all have friends, we have families, we have commitments, responsibilities, whatnot. Relationship is one another important item in that list as well. So make sure that you're committing yourself, and make sure that you have that a understanding with your partner as well, that he or she is also equally committing, to make sure that they have full commitment and full attention when it comes to that connection that you're trying to establish. This really kind of works in two levels, right? One is, it is making sure that we are investing our time and energy and effort in that relationship. The other is, it is also making our partner understand that the amount of respect and the amount of commitment that is coming in from the other side. So the moment they acknowledge that, they would want to also make sure that they are equally committing themselves. So this helps a lot in the long run. Next is, I would say, there's no competition. So it's not like, I did 10 things and you did 8 things or 8.5 things. No, let's not, get into that kind of a comparative analysis, right? When I say review your relationship, I didn't intend to mean that. I intend to mean in terms of how we are collaborating, how that connection is happening, how that bond is, and what is it that we are doing to strengthen that bond as we evolve and progress through our life at different stages, right? So always remember, it's not a competition. It's again how we are able to strengthen these thought processes, and at the same point making sure that we are having the mindset of being accommodative for each other. So there will be times, in our relationships where I am probably doing 30 things and my partner is probably not even doing 10 things. Nothing wrong in that, So there's, what goes wrong is if we are comparing it in a way that we are assessing each other's commitment, and we are assessing each other in a getting into that judgmental mode. That's where things will trigger in the wrong direction. But if you're able to acknowledge this, appreciate it, and bring it back to that topic where I spoke about, talk about things, understand your strengths, understand your weaknesses, understand your partner's strengths and weaknesses. So when we try to bring in these kind of things into that conversation, we are able to understand where things are probably not going so right. Maybe there's a reason, why your partner is only able to do 10 things and you're able to do 30 things. It's that phase and stage of your life where probably you have more time in your hand, and you have more capacity in your hand, or you have more capability to focus on those specific tasks that are there on your plate at this point in time. And very soon your partner is going to catch up and do the things that he or she needs to do as well. So then there's going to be a balance again. So always remember, when the balance is going a little here and there, it's always important to reconcile them and acknowledge them and accept them and be accommodative. Accommodative sense and thought is an important thing in any relationship that we have. Now we'll move on to opportunities where you can also bring in the degree of being patient. So it's very easy to take things for granted, become impatient in a relationship, because we bond with each other so deeply that we tend to overlook the kind of impact that this is going to have on that person when I throw out these words, or when I try to become intolerant or harsh in some form of the other, and so on, right? So we don't realize it, we don't understand how it is going to impact on the other side. So try not to, get into that phase. Before you get into that phase, or your mind is kind of driving you towards that direction, try to pause for a moment and think through and see, like, is it really what? I don't think I need to put this across in this form. Maybe we need to talk about it in this manner, and so on and so forth. So try to switch that thought process to a certain degree. That really helps a lot. And also, it also helps in terms of making sure that our temperaments are controlled. So the moment you show patience and tolerance, temper also kind of, goes down to a huge extent, as well, right? And the last thing I would want to say is, avoid copying other couples. Try to make your own testimonials, have your own unique, kind of so-called icons that you want to create through your life journey with your partner. That becomes even more interesting and exciting to be sharing, to be recognizing it, and also over a period of time just rewind it back and then go through that process and then see how beautiful that journey was. It's just so amazing when you have your unique testimonials, right? Rather than repeating what others have done and so on. It's not wrong to go and replicate something that you are so associated with and it just resonates to you so much that I want to do that as well along with my partner. Yes, go for it, but at the same time create your own testimonials. This really kind of creates that superpower impact on your relationships. So with that, I'm going to stop here, and again, thank you for listening in, and I hope these little tips and techniques would really strengthen your relationships to a super powerful degree. Please do drop in your comments, and would be more than happy to read them out and respond to them as well. And if you have further topics that you want us to share or talk about in this channel, do put in your comments, and hit the bell icon and subscribe on this channel. More than happy to bring in a lot of more interesting topics, pieces of wisdom as always. Thank you again for tuning in, and stay tuned for more interesting videos on Figure Outable. Thank you. Namaste.